Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Nice to see so many of you online. We've got an hour today to look at the career coach functionality and just a bit of sharing of best practice with you. So it'll be a refresher for a lot of you, but nice to see a few familiar names, if not faces, and I hope you're all keeping well and safe. My name's Carla Hoff. I am the account director at MZ for Further Education. So few of your account managers, but some of you might be more familiar with my colleague John. We ran a really interesting webinar this morning on how to embed LMI and career coach in particular into lesson plans and tutorials. So pop a note in the comments or questions section if you want a copy of that sending as well. Some of you might already have been signed up to that this morning, but just while that's fresh in my memory, we've got some really good feedback from that, so keen to share that with you guys as well. So very brief overview today. What I'm going to do is look at the overview of the career coach tool and the methodology, so what it does and how it works basically. I'm going to dive into a main site and I'm going to use majority of the time to look over the functionality today. Just a bit of a refresher. I think now more than ever, it's important to be able to find new innovative ways to engage with your learners remotely. So hopefully this will give you a few hints and tips on how to do that. And then we'll just give you a few examples of some best practice, how you can take career coach to the next level through things like widgets and API integration. And then we'll have some time for questions. So what do we do then? So basically, our mission at MZ is to help people make better decisions. So if you're familiar with our other tools, that sometimes fits into that whole curriculum planning process or business development process. But today we're going to focus on the learner. So that person who we want to help make better decisions is that learner. And what we really want to do is give you a vehicle to drive in that. So how can you help that learner, whether that's an existing learner at the college or a potential learner, help answer some of these questions about their future. So you're the kind of building block and the bridge between the learner's job, future career, and what they really want to know is things like how much can they earn, what education level do they need for the career of their choice, and what they can expect from this job. We've seen a big focus on skills from the Ofsted new inspection framework and really kind of taken apart the traditional qualification or course area and having a look at what skills, knowledges, and competencies and behaviours make that up and how we can build that into course design. When it gets to progression and moving that learner on to meaningful employment, how can we start to give them the information that such as what companies are hiring in the area, how they can find and apply the jobs and what skills they're looking for in there. So what we really want to do is basically connect the courses that you offer to the careers that they train for. So a brief overview of core LMI data. Again, if you're familiar with the wider MZ software offer, we've basically got a huge tool called Analyst, which has all of our labour market data in. So this is predominantly from Office for National Statistics, NOMIS, and a lot of the data sets that you see on the screen is where the data comes from. So a lot of the data is freely available, things like the census, BRES, the labour force survey, the annual survey of hours and earnings. It's all lots of different data sets that are out there in the public domain, but for you guys to get hold of them and make sense is really tricky, and then give them to the learners in kind of a meaningful resource and something that can help them through that careers journey. So all the core data sets, we've got data back to 2003. So this is all our granular historic data. And what we can basically do with that as an economic modelling company is extrapolate those trends, project forward into the future and give you employment projections. So what industries and occupations are growing and declining within your region? How do you connect these back to the courses that you offer? And how can you give learners things like wage information and employment data? On top of that core LMI data, we build in some contextual data sets. So these are things like the projections that I just talked about. So it's great looking at historic data and what's happened. So how do we take forward and use this to plan forward? We've got things like the mid-year population estimates. So things in year get added to that data set. Job centre plus claimant count. So who's claiming unemployment benefits for what jobs and what areas. We've got statistics for Wales and Scotland, so adding in regional specific, and then also on that same point, things like DEFRA, which is the Department for Environmental, Food and Rural Affairs, so your agricultural data sets. And then probably most importantly, your course data. So a whole host of core LMI data and contextual data sets that we put together and build together to make you guys have a really easily accessible resource that you can use in a whole host of things. So how does the tool work then? So again, might be a bit of a refresher for most of you, but basically, in the simplest way, we take your courses. So every single course that you offer, we take. So this might be provided by you or taken from your website. So just a side note, if you were unsure of the last time that your course offering has been updated or given to us, just ping me a note and I can make sure that we've got up-to-date data. We basically need to take this from you and refresh this twice a year to make sure that everything on the site reflects your course offering. And when we've taken all those courses, we map these to the careers that they train for. And we do this using SOC data, so Standard Occupation Classification data. So all of the courses that you offer mapped to the careers that they train for, and then we add in some contextualized real-time labour market data too. So with that SOC code, so that's the government classification of a job, an occupation, we can add in a whole host of, or tag a whole host of data sets to that career. So health and social care courses train for these types of careers. These are the daily tasks in each of those careers. This is the current employment numbers. This is how much you're likely to get paid at what education level. And these are similar careers that you might go into or have similar skills, tasks and knowledge and behaviours kind of attributed to them. On top of that, we've got job postings. So we've got two sets of data. We've got traditional structural labour market data, and then we've also got what we call that real-time data. And this is that next level of detail to help us understand what skills employers are asking for, and then more specifically, how many monthly postings there is for these types of jobs and the names of the local employers posting. So what we can really do is set a really good scene for a learner who has some idea of what they want to do, and then build on the information as they go through that careers journey and give them some information on relevant training with the course areas that you offer. Some of the best practice examples that we've got from some of our colleges. I'll show you a couple of live examples when we get to the API section, and give you a little bit of an overview of how it can be used both internally and externally. So this all kind of ties in really, really nicely then with those Gatsby benchmarks. So a lot of you might have purchased the tool for meeting the Gatsby benchmarks. A lot of you might have purchased the tool to enhance marketing and recruitment. It shouldn't just be one of those. What we should basically do is have a really good kind of understanding across college where it can be used with your school's engagement teams, where it can be used with your careers advisors within internally with your internal learners or existing learners, and then also within your marketing team. So how can you enhance some of that content that you've already got out there, and really make that link from your courses to careers prominent on the website, for example. Just back on that Gatsby benchmark point though, so two of them, number 2 and number 4, are probably the most relevant to the career coach tool and using labour market data in general. So number 2 is all around learning from career and labour market information. So what this really does is give you that vehicle to do that. So you've seen a lot of it can be self-serve. So if a learner goes onto the website, they can probably quite easily find their way around this. But also, as a careers lead or as a careers advisor within a college, it's really your responsibility under those Gatsby benchmarks to be able to have that careers information and labour market information around your local area. As we pointed out, the data on the website on the career coach tool will all be relevant to the local area that you choose. So it's the most up-to-date labour market data out there, and it's a really good way of showing them specific labour market needs within their area. Number 4 then is all around that linking curriculum learning, so what you're offering at the college to the careers. So for those potential or existing students, how does the qualification that you do or will do link or go on to train you for the relevant career? So we've got that mapping process, and if the learner isn't on the right course, how can they change that and what can they do instead? So we've got the similar careers for that as well. So we've talked a little bit about tutorial sessions, and I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar around about the lesson plan webinar that we did this morning. We've produced with a sector expert some really nice understanding careers tasks and lesson plans that you can build into those sessions. So have these on your Moodle, build them into tutorials, and use that CV building task in your employability sessions as well. So that's the Gatsby benchmarks. We've talked about employer engagement, so we've got that link to live work opportunities. There is also the functionality on the tool to be able to upload vacancies directly to students. So you can do this as your internal job shop if you like, or you can also have local employers that you work closely with doing that. Get in touch if you want more information about that. We don't just switch it on because it's quite a detailed process, but the tool is there. Parental engagement then for those external kind of facing learners. Parents and guardians are the most influential kind of person within that decision-making process for the learner. So how can they be reassured that the courses that learner wants to do leads on to the careers? So we've seen the live job postings board, but we've also got that save element, really good for a learner to be able to log onto their profile, engage the parents, so let the parents know that this tool is available. But especially now when a lot of learners are at home with parents, a really good tool to be able to show how what they think they want to do is a viable careers option. And then obviously the plus side, that links back to what you're offering at the college. Student engagement then, so what we can offer is a free careers tool for partnership schools. So what we basically do is take your career coach website and rebrand that portal to align with a school design. So we've got the Colleague Icon Moed MZ Career Coach website. So this is a college in Wales. And then we've also got one of their feeder schools. So this is the branding and page for Colleague Icon Moed. And then same page, but all we do is brand it up into what the school's branding is. So free, impartial careers tool. So we can take the courses element off if the school really aren't comfortable with you displaying those on there, and it can be an LMI tool only. But basically, it's a really good way to get learners to start thinking about some of those careers options that are available to you. So that brings us nicely onto the case study from Dundee and Angus. So for schools engagement, Dundee and Angus are basically getting around 1,500 hits on their career coach site every single month without things like this. But one of the biggest successes with school engagement was the Future Talent vocational event that the school run on an annual basis, the college, sorry. So they reach out to all of their local schools across the region. So 14 and 15-year-olds, invite them along to a bit of an open day. So it's billed as a fun introduction to your college. But they had almost 1,000 pupils from 7 schools across 2 days participating in a wide range of vocational skills activities. So the career coach session went down really, really well. And a lot of the feedback was that the session was seen as a really good opportunity to think about what skills the learners had and how they kind of funneled or kind of went straight into the careers that they were interested in. I'll circulate these slides. The full case study is on our website, on our blog. So we've talked about that link on your homepage, but really you just need to make this as prominent as you can on your website. There's also not much point in just having a tiny little button that says career coach. You want a bit of text explaining what the tool does. So these are just a few examples from the colleges at the bottom, but make it as prominent as you can. Have a sliding tile at the top, different ways to display the tool around your website, and you can also use this in open days and events, as we talked about. So we've touched briefly on that API and widgets. That probably doesn't mean a lot to you, but basically, I'm going to come off this slide and show you the live examples. Basically, what we can do is everything that we have looked at in terms of data on that website, we can basically pull that apart and display it however we want on the website. So today we've seen how you go to your college website, your VLA, your Moodle, you click on the career coach button, it takes you to a separate website. So what we can do with the API or widget option is basically bring some of that data onto the Boston College website, for example. So I'm a learner and I've just had a look at this accounting and business finance qualification or course. We've got all of the information there that you would have seen on any standard course page on a website. We've got information on what the learner might do, the entry qualifications and fees. But here at the bottom, we've basically got that live API data or live API feed from the Career Coach site. So when talking about how to use this and how to embed it into all different departments, you've got your internal use for existing students for progression, your school's outreach group, so you're using the portal for those types of things to really be able to market and recruit and promote what you're offering. This is a really, really good tool. So from this course, these are the potential careers that the learner could go on to. This is the number of new job opportunities within the region from these careers, and this is entry, average and potential wage for this group of careers. We can go into those in more detail, and it just gives us a really good overview of typical tasks, skills and entry requirements for that occupation. Again, all on the website, not really moving anywhere. Another example is Gateshead. So senior panel technician, we've got again all of that information on the qualification of course, and then we've got careers, earnings and new job opportunities. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back to the presentation. So had a look at that one. Different ways or other ways then. So social media is a wonderful tool. Use some of this data in your tweets. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, the ever-growing list of the apps and social media platforms that kids use these days. Screenshot some of these data sets from the Career Coach site, build them into infographics, put them on social media, use them in your prospectuses. Really, really useful information for being able to say, these are the list of courses that we offer and this is how it relates to the sector as a whole. Got a few more in-depth bits of labour market data there. So from the wider analyst tool, we can have a look at total job numbers, demographics, things like that. And then last but not least, analytics. So we have an improved analytics section in the back end for monitoring the usage and traffic of your site. So what this basically allows us to do is look at the total visits on your website. So when those were, you can track any successful marketing campaigns, see which schools are more engaged, what courses are popular. We can look between courses and careers for things like top viewed, looked at the most viewed careers and courses. We can look at the search bar. So basically, what are people typing into that search box? Is there a huge demand for cybersecurity? Do we currently offer anything in that? So this can be fed back to curriculum heads and leads on the types of things that people are looking for. And then we can start to look at as well the number of assessments taken, the number of CVs created, and the careers clicked through to Indeed. So what jobs are people typically going for? So if you don't have admin privileges, again, contact John or I and we can set up relevant users. So what we often see with our colleges is every month pull a report off and you can send this out to the relevant people and they'll be able to have a look at some of the usage and traffic. So another case study on the tool. This is just from a different kind of setting. So Birmingham Adult Education Services, really, really well embedded throughout the whole of the organisation. But we basically picked up from this that Jazzy was particularly impressed in how the tool lends itself to a lot of different learners. So it's used throughout the curriculum team. It's also used out in the community, but really good for all entry-level users. So a little bit earlier than expected, but that brings us to a close and time for some questions, if we have any.
At the moment, we don't have any, but that was really helpful. Thank you, Carla.
Great. So as I said, probably a couple of things to note down. So first thing to do is to check who is the product lead of the tool within your college. The fact that you're on the webinar and you've received the link means that you are a customer and you do have this. So find out who in the organisation has looks after the tool in the college. Second of all, make sure your course offering is up to date. Just drop me or John an email to do that. We can make sure that we have an up-to-date course offering or do your rescrape. And then a third thing, and I'll circulate these to the list of attendees, is just to check that we've got a bit of a checklist and to check that this has been used in every single which way possible that we've outlined. So make sure that we're really, really getting the best use of the tool, both internally and externally. There is also the access to the admin privileges, so make sure you know who's got them within your organisation. If no one, again, get in touch and we can set that up for you. And then last but not least, just be sure to check out the webinar from this morning, as there'll be some really useful resources in there, particularly around lesson plans. Great. Well, that's all from me. Thank you for your time. I hope you found that useful and have a productive week.